Another month, another 12 games. That's right, it's humble choice time again. Before I get started, I'll let you know that I have 2 games to give away this month, Yakuza 3 Remastered and Dirt 5. As usual, comment and subscribe to have a chance of winning, but also if you retweet the video link from Twitter, you'll get an extra chance to win. Twitter defaults to not letting strangers message you, so if you also follow @SlothrockUK on Twitter, it'll make it easier for me to award prizes. The first game this month is Yakuza 3 Remastered, or Yakuza. I'm never quite sure how that's pronounced. I'm not the biggest fan of this series. The motion and cameras always feel a bit jerky to me, and the waypoint system seems glitchy. You'll be right on a marker, but unsure where to go some of the time, and as there's nothing in the real world to mark your target, you kind of wander aimlessly. Yakuza 3, like many games in the series, starts with some backstory and a visit to a graveyard, followed by walking in a blocky city to get jumped by things for a fight tutorial. After that, we're back into the story. It's a pretty good representation of the series, but a bit buggy. At one point, my game minimap disappeared and I had to reload the game. But other than that, it still feels pretty enjoyable. The Yakuza series is the kind of series that you'll get a lot out of if you're there for playing the story. If you're playing for gameplay, I'm not so sure, but I'm probably not the target audience for this one. Next up is Surge 2. I've had Surge 1 on my unplayed list for ages, and after playing this, I may install that and play them back to back. Surge 2 is a Dark Souls-esque kind of game where you wake up in a hospital wing of a prison in some kind of cyberpunky dystopian future with the objective to escape and work out what's going on. Once you get used to the combat mechanics, it's pretty enjoyable, so I'm looking forward to playing both games at some point this month. I'm occasionally partial to arcade races. I quite enjoyed Burnout Paradise, and I loved Burnout 3 on the original Xbox, and have fond memories of classics such as Screamer 2 and Pod from the 1990s. Codemaster's work in the domain of racing has always been pretty stellar, and Dirt 5 is no exception. The game is a slick and polished arcade racer, and is forgiving enough to let me come first on my first race, even though I drove like absolute mince the entire time. I expect that later into the game I will be punished for driving like I'm riding a broken shopping trolley down a mountain, but it's pretty great, and I'm giving it away this month. Hammerting is an early access game, and unfortunately it really shows. The tutorials are just text explanations of the HUD with no explanation of what the game really is, so there's a lot of trial and error. I actually gave up playing and had to come back later in the day for a second attempt. Clicking things rarely seems to have an expected outcome because the screen is kind of zones rather than items. I clicked a cake and triggered a leaving an area. That made no sense to me. It seems that you click to move characters through a map, but when you click on an item that's collectible or mineable, they'll just take it back to the entrance and then not come back. I'm somewhat frustrated with trying to work out what I'm even supposed to be doing, and it certainly isn't even enjoyable or intuitive enough for me to persevere. Now this one's a bit fiddly at first, but once you get used to it, it's an interesting game where you construct your own ship to solve levels. I found myself strapping engines onto my ship, setting the left and right stick movements to the opposite engines, and then setting all weapons to a single fire button for best results. Though mouse mapping to the right thumbstick is tricky if you're not playing full screen, the mouse basically leaves the game window and clicks different applications when firing, so I ended up having to play with keyboard and mouse. Awkwardness aside, it's pretty enjoyable, and you can probably come up with all manner of weird and wonderful ship designs to solve the puzzles presented. At first I thought this would be a virtual novel due to the reams of text you get to blast through, but that seems to be tacked onto a 3D environment with some poster board characters and collectibles. It's not bad, it's worth at least an install to see if you like it. Kill It With Fire is a game where you have to find and kill spiders. Thankfully they have an array of arachnophobia options, which help me get through the overview, but no. Nope. The game itself seems pretty simple though, and it could be fun if it's your sort of thing. It's not for me. Nope. Bee Simulator turns out to be quite relaxing. You play a worker bee collecting pollen and protecting the hive from enemies. The first mission has you flying around a park, getting pollen, eating treats, saving bees and fighting wasps. Flying a little bee around a human-sized environment with a joypad is surprisingly enjoyable. Elderborn is a hack-and-slash platformer with an awesome soundtrack. It really is my kind of game. You fight skeletons, trigger traps, hoof enemies into the abyss. I love it. It's the game of the month for me, I think. S.W.I.N.E HD is a remaster of a 2001 strategy game with the worst French accents ever. The FMV sequences remind me of games from the early 1990s when Smacker Player was huge, and the gameplay itself reminds me a little of various Amiga games with a nod to things like Command & Conquer. It would be a good nostalgia play, but that's about it, and to be honest I'd rather play Command & Conquer. Deadly Days is a pixel art style zombie survival roguelite. You get to head out in your school bus and look for people and resources to help ride out these steadily increasing waves of the undead. It's got cool graphics, snazzy music and simple gameplay, which make a great recipe for a good time. Lastly, we have ADOM, an overly convoluted turn-based RPG. I'm not quite sure why they felt the need to map every single key on the keyboard to an action when menus and things exist. That feels like something we used to do in the 8-bit home computer era. Visually the game is nice, it has a very traditional art style, the audio is quite atmospheric and it suits the game well. I'm just not convinced that I can be bothered with the control system, although it does at least remind you of relevant controls when you need them. So that's it. Game of the month for me is Elderborn, followed by Surge 2 and Deadly Days. Comment and subscribe if you want to win Yakuza 3 or Dirt 5. Follow @SlothrockUK on Twitter and share the video we post on there for additional chance to win. I'll do the draw on probably Thursday the 22nd, so you have 2 weeks to get sharing. Thanks for watching.